Why can you let me touch it? As I said this tremblingly, the cigarette in the fingertips of the school bully, Dante Barreo, fell to the ground. 0.01 seconds later, the entire rooftop resounded with the shrill thug's screech. Boss. The good girl who is the first in the grade has to worship under the school uniform of the boss. Corazana Serna, our boss is very demanding, let's take 3 first. Before a yellow-haired thug could finish his meaty words, he was kicked by Dante Barreo. The young man's eyes were dark and condescending. He looked at my weak but flushed face with a faint expression, then reached out and touched my forehead. The tone was a little nonchalant. Fever. As soon as he finished speaking, he heard a thug next to him coaxing, I see that Zuba, she is not a fever, but There was another tacit evil laugh all around. Dante Barreo's eyebrows furrowed slightly as he turned to the coaxer, one more word, I'll throw you down from here. All the little brothers were instantly silenced. My consciousness froze at the moment when the boy placed his hand on my forehead. Plus 1%. There seemed to be a soothing stream of water pouring into his body, but the sensation disappeared as soon as the boy withdrew his hand. It's as if nothing happened. The school bully thought that I was stunned by the meat words just now, and patiently opened my mouth. They usually play around like this. Don't take it to heart, if you slap them a few times. I told them not to fight back. Boss, she's not your girlfriend yet. It's too partial. Dante Barreo looked back at the babbling men. Isn't your mother a woman? If you have a cheap mouth, you should be beaten. Several people bowed their heads like quails, daring to be angry but not daring to speak. Corazana Serna, if you don't slap or go back to class, hurry up and choose, I'm in a hurry. He looked at his watch, picked up his school uniform on the recliner and prepared to go downstairs. I hurriedly took out a few crumpled red tickets from my wallet and handed them over. Don't go, you let me touch it, I can give money. 5 days ago, I had a battery-level display in front of my eyes. I follow me wherever I go. I went to the hospital to hang up the ophthalmology, but the ophthalmologist told me to hang up the psychiatric department. In the end, the psychiatrist came to the conclusion that the college entrance examination is imminent, and the pressure of studying is too great, so it is good to rest more. So I took a leave of absence, to rest for a few days, but the whole person was even weaker to the naked eye. My mother thought that I was secretly studying in the middle of the night, and she was so distressed that she couldn't do it, so she comforted me again and again that the college entrance examination was not the only way out. But I really didn't. The power is out. Just in case my mom was worried, I pretended that everything was normal, and went to school. It wasn't until morning self-study that I walked up to Dante Barreo, who was sleeping on his stomach in the back row. There is actually a layer of light floating on his whole body. I watched my soft black hair move. I have a gut feeling that this light can recharge me. I gently stretched out my hand, and slowly moved forward. The next moment, someone outside called him, and I immediately withdrew my hand like a thief. Dante Barreo straightened up impatiently. Looking at each other, I was startled by the coldness in my eyes, and my heart was pounding. I didn't dare to ask for the homework, and turned around and left stiffly. Under the astonished gaze of the crowd, Dante Barreo dragged me down the hallway. Plus 1%. Do you know what you're talking about? Dante Barreo frowned, his lips straightened, as if I was the one who made him feel difficult. I nodded my head again and again, my expression extremely pleading and sincere. I'll just touch it, and nothing else. Why? I paused. Possibly. It's a bit stressful to study. Dante Barreo. Then why me? I looked up at him, and the darkness of the corridor hid the boy's facial features, faintly outlining the delicate and cold silhouette of his face. This is a lazy, noble and ruffian young master. Usually he doesn't care about anything, but if he is provoked, he is like a demon, so that people can't survive and die. If it weren't for the lack of power, I really didn't want to provoke such a big man. I bit my tongue and said stubbornly, You're good looking, better than all the male stars combined. You fight very well, and you make people feel safe. It's in good shape, with 8-pack abs and mermaid line, which I saw in swimming lessons. You have a good family background, the girls like you, and I like it too. I said it very sincerely, and the 4 sentences made the eyes of the school bully, who had always been calm and invincible, tremble. The boy asked in a hoarse voice, Where are you touching? Hands. As soon as I finished answering, a large, slender and white hand with distinct knots reached out. I carefully held it with both hands. Dante Barreo's hand was slightly cool like jade, and the moment it touched it, a strange feeling of fullness flowed through his body. Plus 1%. Plus 1%. It's up 10%. I started with 7%, which should last a week. Dante Barreo, let's say okay, I'll bring the money next week. I looked at him cautiously, and pinched his palm, for fear that he would refuse. Coming back. A slight look of surprise flashed in his eyes. Boss, Zuba means that he plans to take care of you for a long time. The younger brother who passed by all the way kindly translated. Dante Barreo, your idol. The younger brother hurriedly explained, Boss, the 11th middle school has come to provoke, don't get tired of it. I could only reluctantly let go of my hand. It doesn't seem like a good deal. After thinking about it, I took the opportunity to take his hand and instruct. Dante Barreo, be safe. Stay safe, my power bank. Dante Barreo was stiffened by my sensual actions. When he turned to leave, the tips of the boy's ears were still red. Boss, you seem to be making a quick move today. The corners of the other party's clothes didn't touch, and the whole person was punched down. No scars. Dante Barreo replied with 4 words faintly. The younger brother staggered, unable to believe that this was what his own boss said. Do you have fewer scars? Didn't you say you didn't care about that? Dante Barreo thinks of the squishy Corazana Serna, and she doesn't cry when she sees the scars on his body. He didn't want to see her cry, at least not during the day. Do you know where to remove scars? Every Friday afternoon, the rooftop became a secret base for me and Dante Barreo. I'm in good health, my face is ruddy, I can run 801 breath, and I'm no longer shy when I hold his hand. The only problem, my wallet is deflated. The first thing to be attacked was my New Year's money, then my living expenses, and in the end, I couldn't even make up a red ticket. From time to time, I looked at the glowing Dante Barreo, feeling powerless. Dante Barreo is richer than me, so why is he so neat every time he collects money? This made me have to think of some ways to make money quickly, and I wanted to make up lessons for my classmates. My first choice was James, who was second in the grade. He is rich, smart, just click on it, and the effect of improving his grades is obvious. It's just a bit of a hatred for me, and I need to actively resolve it. I stood at James' desk again, trying to mention the makeup lesson, but before I could say anything, he was scolded back. I know you're a cow, the first in the grade, but it's not about money. I'll be soon. I hurriedly added, my girlfriend is going to be jealous, let's go. There's no way we're going to do that. I sighed, and as soon as I turned around, I saw Dante Barreo with a black face, looking at me like a little daughter-in-law watching him cheat. I was a little puzzled, and hesitated to reach out to say hello, but he turned around and left. Then that Friday, Dante Barreo didn't wait for me on the rooftop. My body has become a little weak, but the electricity accumulated in the previous few weeks is barely enough to support it. Dante Barreo turned away as soon as he saw me, leaving me with no chance to catch him and ask for clarification. Now, let's change seats for the last time in the 3 years of high school, and everyone will be prioritized according to their grades. I was the first to enter the classroom and took a deep breath. In amazement, I walked to the last row and sat down next to Dante Barreo, who was sleeping on his stomach. Oh Tilda! The classmates standing outside the classroom began to heckle, and the head teacher looked at me with hatred. For 3 years, my position has been in the middle of the 3rd row, where the stars hold the moon. They also wondered if it was because of the good feng shui in this position, so I won the first place in the grade for 3 years. Actually, I'm just too lazy to move the table. For 3 years, Dante Barreo's place has also been in the last row by the window. No one dared to share a table with him, so he was always alone, and did not participate in changing seats. At the end of class, everyone started to clink and move the table, and Dante Barreo couldn't sleep, so he sat up and looked out the window. My desk was about to align with his, and I pushed it hard, only to accidentally knock his pen off. He looked at me in surprise, and I quickly apologized, and squatted down to pick up the pen. He reached out, and I handed the pen over. It's that warm and white hand again. The moment the demon sent it over, I grabbed his hand and touched it. Plus 1%. I reacted stiffly, still, and stupid. I want to disappear in place. I want to explode directly, and the universe will be destroyed. Corazana Serna, Corazana Serna. Thanks to the smooth sailing of your studies in the first 18 years, you still thought that you were the reincarnation of the champion. That's stupid. You are actually the reincarnation of a disciple. I didn't dare to see how Dante Barreo reacted, so I sat mechanically in my seat. Pretending to be calm, I opened a book that I didn't know what it was and looked at it. I read it for 3 minutes. Oh, it's a copybook. But I didn't dare to change because I could feel it. Dante Barreo was watching me all the time. Maybe because I didn't give money this time, this school bully is going to find someone to beat me. My heart skipped a beat. There was a young man's chuckle in his ears. Corazana Serna-san, you are so cute. Thank you. Please don't take my money next time, I replied in my heart. In the next moment, I felt the boy suddenly approach. With the smell of grass in the sun, Dante Barreo leaned close to my ear. His voice was low and pleasant, with a lazy ruffian energy, tugging at people's heartstrings for no reason. I heard him ask, Corazana Serna, do you like me? It's too close. For a moment, I blushed to the base of my neck. Hurriedly shook his head. I am an adult with self-control, a qualified learning machine, and a successor of socialism, and I only have learning in my heart. I kept brainwashing myself, but the whole person was still red and turned into a shrimp that was almost cooked. It wasn't until the boy got up to leave that I breathed a sigh of relief. Adolescent throbbing was found guilty. God has given every boy and girl to experience this undercurrent of duplicity, but I really didn't expect that in the afternoon, I would deny myself completely. Here's the thing, with the 1% battery we stole in, a total of 4%, should have lasted until the day I agreed with Dante Barreo. Who knew that in the afternoon physical education class, I ran 800, and as I ran, I saw the power above my head drop with a bang. It made my heart cold. Now I know, exercise consumes power quickly. Hell knows if I'll just die when the battery is zero. Thinking of my mother's desperate face, I gritted my teeth and used my last strength to find Dante Barreo. The boy had just finished 1,000 meters and was standing in the shade of a tree, surrounded by a few younger brothers drinking cold drinks. Once I was on target, I sped in the direction where Dante Barreo was, without slowing down. The tall boy was caught off guard and stumbled by me, and the unfinished drink spilled to the ground, but he still subconsciously stopped my waist with his other hand. All the younger brothers were stunned by my behavior. I was immersed in the bliss of instantly increasing my battery by 5%. Even his head rubbed against his chest unconsciously. Suddenly, his left hand around me was released, and his whole body stiffened. I could even faintly hear his fast, powerful heartbeat. There were some conjectures in my mind, so I looked back, and sure enough, the PE teacher was looking at me with strange eyes. I'm really trying to live, but I know they won't believe it, so I gritted my teeth and pretended to faint. I'm a naturally white person, and with the credit of a good girl, who is a good student, they should be lenient. Dante Barreo was very cooperative in catching me before I fell to the ground. He picked me up. Teacher, I'll take her to the infirmary. Plus 5%. Plus 5%. If I knew that hugging was so much faster than holding hands, I wouldn't have spent so much money. Dante Barreo carried me to the bed in the infirmary, and I reluctantly tugged at the corner of his coat. After waiting for more than 10 seconds, there was no prompt sound, and I regretfully let go. Dante Barreo looked at me like this and raised an eyebrow slightly. Corazana Serna, are you sure you don't like me? I subconsciously wanted to shake my head again, but suddenly, a thought popped into my head. The next moment, I grabbed Dante Barreo's hand. Dante Barreo, I was wrong. I was actually I like you. Will you please be my boyfriend? Let me touch and cuddle for free. Seriously, I would have died without you. Dante Barreo's whole face turned red at a rate visible to the naked eye when he heard this. Maslow's hierarchy of needs says that the need for survival is the most fundamental need of human beings. I took Dante Barreo's hand and looked at him, with tears in my eyes. It's okay to think I'm good, or pity me, as long as it allows me to charge it for free. The landlord's family has no surplus food. He didn't answer me. He didn't shake my hand away, but asked, is it bad that I didn't wait for you last week? Yes, the body is almost empty. Dante Barreo felt guilty. I'm sorry. I thought you had found two. What? It's nothing. So you're giving money to find a reason to approach me? Yes, yes. You seem to be a little hesitant. He leaned over to meet my eye, and said in a cold voice, Corazana Serna, you're going to die a terrible death, if you lie to me. I shook a little, then closed my eyes and said loudly, believe it or not, I really like you. I like your power bank-like body very much. After saying that, I secretly opened one eye to see him react. The boy pretended to nod nonchalantly, the corners of his mouth smiling harder than Axe. This is a pass, right? If you don't sell it now, when will you sell it? I abruptly let go of his hand and whispered, alas, Dante Borreo, it's a pity that I won't be able to hold you anymore. He looked at me, his smile frozen. I have no money. Dante Borreo breathed a sigh of relief and held out her beautiful hands again. Of course my girlfriend can take it. My eyes lit up. I slapped that hand away and hugged him directly. Plus 5%. Plus 5%. Recently, the school bully seems to be a little wrong. I didn't skip class or leave early. My blonde hair was dyed back black, and I knew that it was good to ask the teacher when I saw it. The head teacher was relieved that there were no bad students who couldn't be disciplined. The gossip of the classmates after school also turned into Dante Borreo. All these changes started when Corazana Serna took the initiative to sit next to the school bully, and the two must have something to do with each other. We found out about this last week. The last time I got out of school, I saw Corazana Serna sitting behind the school bully's motorcycle, hugging her tightly. Oh Tilda, alas, Lord Zushin won't delay his studies, and the college entrance examination is about to be. Thinking so, several of the classmates looked at Corazana Serna, and after staring at it for a few minutes, they were horrified. Why did she only pick the last big question on the math paper, and so fast? Thanks to Dante Borreo, I've been in great shape lately. The battery level is stable at around 70%. I don't know how many times more efficient, and the big problem that used to take 8 minutes to solve now only takes 3 minutes. There are still 2 minutes of hesitation, over which solution is easier. Of course, I know very well that this power is not a miracle power. What you haven't learned won't be or won't, but it's enough to cope with the college entrance examination. At the end of the last mock exam, in my 3rd year of high school, I was packing up my useless papers, and the classmates in the front row, who answered the answers would occasionally ask me what I had written. If you are like me, you will exclaim with joy, but on the contrary, you will be discouraged and make me cry and laugh. I can only comfort them with, I don't have to wait for the teacher to tell me. In fact, I'm pretty sure, even if the answer is wrong, I can't be wrong. The next day, when the teacher talked about it, I was all right. The classmates who had answered the answer all looked at me through gritted teeth, and I could only smile shyly. Only the front table accosted me excitedly. You will definitely be admitted to Kingby. I think you wrote Kingby on the hope wall that we just wrote in our 1st year of high school. We thought you were crazy at the time, but we didn't expect you to be a real king. Thank you for your blessings. You will definitely be admitted to the school you want to go to. I thought that the greeting would be over, but I didn't expect the front table to start gossiping. You and the school bully are really. She looked at me with a wink, her eyes full of curiosity. Dante Borreo was there before, and she didn't dare to ask. Dante Borreo skipped class to attend a basketball game today, and she dared to ask me. I pursed my lips and smiled without answering. But I heard that the school bully is going to send him abroad, and he doesn't even have to take the college entrance examination. What will you do then? After she finished speaking, I was stunned for a moment. I felt a little dizzy. I found that I had been deliberately ignoring a fundamental problem. Dante Borreo has a rich family, a son, and maybe it's just for fun. I'm going to get into college, and Dante Borreo is going abroad. Even if I borrow money from everywhere, and follow Dante Borreo abroad, or beg him to stay for me, and after that, am I bound to this person for the rest of my life? Would he be willing to be with me for the rest of his life? A sudden feeling of fear and helplessness arose in my heart. I was at a loss for a long time, and when I came back to my senses, school was already over, and most of the students in the classroom were gone. I packed my bag and went downstairs. At the end of the stairs, Dante Barreo was waiting for me, with a bag on his shoulder. I walked over and hugged him. Plus 5%. He had just taken a shower, and he still had a faint smell of shower gel on his body, which was very good. His body temperature is slightly higher than mine, and with the blessing of electricity, it is very comfortable to hold. But that still doesn't change my sad heart. What's wrong? The grades aren't good. Hold for a long time today, Dante Barreo asked speculatively. I whispered. He touched my head. It's okay, just do your best. Are you leaving? 5 minutes later, Dante Barreo was helpless. Obediently, if you hold me like this, we can't go. I took a small step to the right and replied to him weakly, well, we can go sideways. When he got home in the evening, Dante Barreo asked for his report card. He took out his report card and compared it with the results of Corazana Serna, which he had jotted down in his notebook. He was a little puzzled. Didn't he do well in the exam? It's better than every test before. I looked at the 2 strings of numbers for another 10 minutes. Dante Barreo came to a conclusion. She must have wanted to take the opportunity to hug me and be close to me. She is so clingy and cute. She must have loved me so much. On the night of the college entrance examination, Dante Barreo took me and his brothers to dinner. He introduced everyone to me one by one, and the gangsters who usually dragged were so well behaved at this time that they all toasted me politely. And when they were over, they would shout, "Hello, sister-in-law." I was a little embarrassed. My ears were red, and others drank it, so I picked up Dante Barreo's glass and drank it too. After a few moments, Dante Barreo didn't dare to ask anyone to toast me anymore. He gave the glass to one of his brothers next to him, told them not to let me drink it anymore, and got up to leave. I didn't expect the wine in Dante Barreo's glass to be so strong and brainy. Looking at his back, I couldn't get back to my senses, and I always felt that my eyes were hot. Sister-in-law, don't look at it. I'll bet 100 yuan, and the boss will go to the supermarket opposite to buy you wangzi. Ha ha ha. Fart. Is the boss such a superficial love brain? I'll add 300, and when the boss comes back with the milk, he will have to go straight to the back kitchen of the hotel and ask the boss for more money. Everyone was laughing again. Don't look at the boss' usual cold face and majesty. When he falls in love, he is an innocent little virgin, and my sister-in-law listens to the brother's words and goes directly above. Where? Going to college. I was a little sluggish, so I could only purse my lips and laugh. The atmosphere was joyful and lively, but I was a little uneasy and wanted to escape. Some people have just left, and I'm already starting to miss them. It wasn't until Dante Barreo came back and stuffed the warm milk into my hand that my heart was resettled. I secretly held his hand under the table. See battery plus 1%. Plus 1%. I felt a surge of energy, a pounding heartbeat. I saw the boy's ears flush like the rising sun in the morning light. He also had a hard mouth and a cold face, and said to his brothers that he was drinking. I tugged at him and motioned for him to look down. His ears came together. Dante Barreo, the mouth is hard and the heart is soft. I spoke very slowly, even a little stumbling, but Dante Barreo was patient. So, I'm going to tell you 2 secrets, one big and one small. Which one do you want to hear first? Dante Barreo looked at me. Great, I pouted. You don't even admit that you are because I blush. I will tell you the little one. The little secret is, what is it? They just let me take all your wine, drink it, and let it go. Dante Barreo sat up straight. The temperature of the dining table suddenly cooled a few degrees, and the younger brothers froze as they drank. I didn't notice it. I just knew that the person who spoke was gone, and I wasn't finished speaking. I got up and put my hands in the shape of trumpets to Dante Barreo's ears, my voice small and a little hoarse. They still let me take you down. In an instant, the temperature of the dining table returned, and even a few degrees higher. Seeing that his girlfriend was getting more and more drunk, Dante Barreo left directly with the people. It is not appropriate to send such a drunk person home, and if you take it to open a hotel, Dante Barreo's Adam's apple rolls. In the back seat of the car, Dante Barreo leaned the girl's head against him and flipped through his phone to contact a female classmate, who usually had a good time with Corazana Serna. He tilted his head to look at her. The girl was born with red lips and white teeth, and after getting drunk, her cheeks were dyed red, and her well-behaved black eyes were full of sparkling light, and she looked pure and milky. Sleep when you're sleepy. He touched his head. The girl's eyes were slightly drunk, a little drowsy, and her mouth did not forget the broken thoughts. But you don't know my big secret. Dante Barreo's heart softened. He tilted his head, his ear pressed to her lips. The girl's exhaled hot breath made him shiver slightly, but he was reluctant to leave. Shay, I'll listen. The big secret is, it's... The delicate voice suddenly brought a crying tone, and the young man panicked immediately. Dante Barreo, can you please leave me alone? Without you, I'd really die. A hangover kills people, and depravity is not advisable. When I woke up from my best friend's house, Joy Peg, I realized that it was Dante Barreo who had sent me over. I also asked Joy Peg to call my mom. What a sweet boyfriend. Joy Peg doesn't think so. If you don't do it in this case, you two are probably going to blow it. He is a fool of the road, and he probably doesn't like a good girl like you. Is there no other possibility? I think Dante Barreo's three views are quite right. He just acted a little more ruthlessly when he was brave, and his little brothers were just brothers who had been helped by him, was bullied and blackmailed by the schoolmen, and he came out, playing basketball, unruly, hit someone seriously injured. He taught a lesson. He even quietly sponsored some poor students. How did you become a mixed bag? Best friend Joy Peg thought about it for a while, and suddenly had a flash of inspiration. There is another possibility. The body is not good. I almost squirted porridge out of my mouth when I heard it. I'm really an adult. I've graduated, and I'm starting to talk as an adult. I'm coughing. I've got something to do, so I'll go to the library first. Talking about this kind of thing with your girlfriend is like a sign of maturity in friendship, but I was still inexplicably ashamed and left. Going to the library is not an excuse. I want to find some cracked way to recharge. Although there is little hope, I think it should be approached with scientific rigor. The physical examination was done last time I went to the hospital, and I could only look for mental problems. Maybe I don't really have any battery display. I can see that maybe it's just a psychological suggestion, and the thought that Dante Barreo can recharge me may also be just a psychological comfort. I read spiritual books voraciously and went to the electronic reading room to collect relevant cases. After watching it for a day, I felt that I was a little like and a little not a schrdinger mental patient. Just as I was pondering, my best friend Joy Peg suddenly sent me a document titled College Entrance Examination Registration Guide. Click on it and take a look. The title of the text has become, What is the Real Boy? I blushed a little and was a little curious. The labels of Poe and Beast World on it made me ignorant, and my curiosity drove me to read on. 10 minutes later, I felt like Christopher Columbus had discovered the New World. What marks the brand? What is a contract nodule? What 7 days and 7 nights? Is this still text? Joy Peg looks at this every day, and it's no wonder that he thinks men are not good. Girl, what are you looking at? I was taken aback by being patted on the back. After 0.01 seconds, he read out the contents of the screen word by word in a low voice. Don't. The Snake King. I panicked, and my phone fell out. Dante Barreo picked it up and typed a string of text into the message field before returning it to me. College tyrant. Good girl. My good girl. This is the library. Are you ashamed? I turned red into a steam crab on the spot. I didn't even take my school bag, and I ran away. As soon as I ran out of the library, I received a message from Dante Barreo. He said he will bring my school bag, and the evening dress for the coming-of-age ceremony has been tucked into my desk. That's when I remembered that I would have a coming-of-age ceremony in the school's auditorium today. I've never been too interested in activities other than studying, and I've blocked all classes. And even if I knew it was a coming-of-age ceremony, I wouldn't have made any special preparations. But I'm thankful that Dante Barreo remembers me. It's one thing to think that it's important or not, and it's another thing to be remembered by others. In the evening, in the auditorium filled with flowers and streamers, the principal sent blessings to all the students. Then, one by one, the students walked through the adult gate with great anticipation, took a group photo, and recorded their youth. I grabbed Dante Barreo's arm in costume and forced him to stay in the corner with me. His precious black suit, my diamond-encrusted white evening gown. If I walked by, I was afraid that my classmates would shout, "Congratulations to this couple." The host on the stage was still asking if anyone had not yet walked through the adult door. I pulled Dante Barreo, and the boy was silent, his eyes down, and the loss was visible to the naked eye. I couldn't bear it, and whispered, "Dante Barreo, it's not that I don't want to go through that door with you. This dress you bought is too grand. Everybody will look at us then. Well, it's my fault. It's my reputation that is too bad to see. And I don't want others to know that our relationship is also right. And I'd rather look at the Snake King than look at me. You're enough." I press my finger against his lips. The lights suddenly go out, and with the sound of the piano, the next activity is about to begin. I had a sudden urge in my heart, hold hands plus 1%, hug plus 5%. What about the others? I am a good student, and I have always believed that the textbook says, practice is the only criterion for testing the truth. In the dark, I removed my fingers, held Dante Barreo's face, and stood on tiptoe to kiss it. At that moment, my heart was beating so fast that I felt as if I had lost all 5 senses, and I couldn't feel anything but the touch on my lips. It seemed to be quiet all around, and the heavens and the earth seemed to be still. I looked at Dante Barreo's handsome face. Wrong. Don't turn off the lights. The surroundings are not, as if, they are still. They are really still. I looked at the light that shone on me, and Dante Barreo at some point, and I was completely numb. Soon, everyone present heard the voice of their best friend Joy Peg in the background. "Did you find the teacher? My best friend, Corazana Serna, is in her 3rd year of high school. She hasn't made it to adulthood yet. Joy Peg, listen to me say thank you. Because of you, the 4 seasons are warm. Let me be like a hot pot in this hot summer." At first, I was worried about how to deal with the strange eyes of my classmates. After that, I didn't worry about it, because Dante Barreo grabbed the back of my head, and put his other hand around my waist, and kissed me directly. From shallow to deep, attacked the city. An unprecedented uproar erupted all around. I know that this is a long-suppressed rebellion. Tear off the past. Tear off the cage. Tear off the system. If I were an onlooker, I might have clapped quietly, but I'm an experiencer, and I just want to say, Dante Barreo, is he a dog? It's not that you don't want him to kiss. Why are you biting me? Dante Barreo was so excited that he barely slept all night, and messaged me on my phone every few minutes. Obediently, someone at the campus forum took a picture of the two of us, and I went to learn to fix it. Good girl, your lips are so soft, like jelly. I didn't want to bite in the first place. Interviewer, how about we go on a graduation trip? There is a sea in the city next door. Am you asleep, my boy? I can't sleep. Good girl, I still want to kiss. I still want to. Obediently, why don't you ask me about graduating and going abroad? Don't you want me to come down? I think it's similar to studying a business degree in China, but I actually feel that I am very talented and can take over the family business directly. I want to go to college with you, at least a little closer to you. I seem to have forgotten to mention that I actually liked you very much. I stared at the dark circles and replied one by one, so that I didn't sleep all night. On the night of the coming-of-age ceremony, I was photographed by a gossip classmate, and my relationship with Dante Barreo was codified into various versions. It is said that the violent school bully was influenced by love, and since then he has become a good boy. I don't think it's my credit, but I'm happy for him to get better. So until he got into the game for another girl's fight, I couldn't believe it. That girl's name is Sophia, and Dante Barreo's family background is the same. I heard that they grew up together. It's a childhood sweetheart, who set a baby kiss. I met Mrs. Barreo when I was picked up at home. She was wearing a pink Chanel suit, and her eyes were red as if she had just cried. When she saw me, she looked at my cheap short sleeves and jeans without blinking, as if she couldn't understand how Dante Barreo, who came from a wealthy family, could fall in love with a girl like me. Mrs. Barreo sat on the throne and spoke in disgust. Sophia has just been bullied by hooligans, and Dante Barreo has stood up for her, which is as it should be given the friendship between our two families. If it were another girl, Dante Barreo would have helped. I complained to myself. But he's about to cancel his engagement with Sophia in the blink of an eye. And he says that he already has a girlfriend and doesn't study abroad. Which is ridiculous. Corazana Serna, I investigated you. And I know you're a good student. But in the eyes of people of our class, your so-called good grades are worthless. What about shanking? Isn't it a part-time job for people of our class? I know you've known this for a long time. So you started seducing us Dante Barreo at school. Dante Barreo is young and easy to deceive. But our Barreo family is not easy to fool. And our Barreo family will never let a poor sour girl like you enter the door. I had a fire in my heart, but I wanted to laugh a little. I didn't expect that after more than 10 years, I would have the opportunity to meet such a person. 10 years ago, my own grandfather said something like that to my mom, and then we were kicked out of my rich dad's house. My mother resigned herself and knelt at the gate begging them to keep me, but I dragged her away under the threat of self-harm. What class of people are you? Is it to go to the toilet without wiping your mouth? Talking so dirty. Do you want to think about the value of your life? Don't just wear gold and silver every day to cheat and fart, pollute the air. What is Sophia when you are young? No, let's read more books to make up for your brain. This one is a little late. It's really not good. Let's go back to the furnace and rebuild it. I won't say too many ugly words. I'm afraid that people will think that I am bullying the mentally handicapped. I have some relationship problems with Dante Barreo. Let him come and tell me himself. We are in love. It is your too. After saying that, I didn't care what they said, and walked out of the villa on my canvas shoes. Dante Barreo couldn't have imagined that a good girl like me would dare to say that in the detention center. Barreo's villa was in the suburbs, and the car that picked me up drove for an hour, and I walked for 2 hours before noticing the power on my head. I found a bus and reversed it 2 or 3 times to get home. Others break up. They are reluctant. They don't want to break up. And the storm cries to die or live. I want to break up and just die. But the decision to be made still has to be made. And the ending is the same for everyone anyway. When I got home, the door was ajar, and a few middle-aged people got up immediately when they saw me. This is Corazana Serna. And she's a talent. Corazana Serna. This is the admissions teacher at Hong Kong City University. Come and say hello. Hello teachers. I bowed. And a female teacher hurriedly came over to help me. They pulled me to ask questions, and introduced the various benefits of Hong Kong City University. I smiled and responded one by one, but there were no ups and downs in my heart. It wasn't until I heard the female teacher arrogantly say, I will give a scholarship of 1 million if I am admitted. I scolded Mrs. Barreo and Sophia just because they thought they had money, and could humiliate others at will. But I had no grudge against money. I watched my mom wear old clothes for more than 10 years, and she was tormented by her day-to-day work. I'm scared that after breaking up with Dante Barreo, I won't be able to electrocute and die. This million can at least allow her to spend the rest of her life comfortably. In the evening, the head teacher asked me in the group if I was rushed by the admissions team of major famous schools, and asked me to go back to school to share my learning experience. I said that the teacher taught well. The students were envious and blessed, and they left messages that they should not forget each other. I'm going to go down one by one, and I wish everyone the best for the future. They all thought I was able to report it, and I didn't explain. Dante Barreo was released on bail, but he warmly messaged me, congratulating me on my admission to the university and planning my graduation trip. His family probably didn't talk to him about the afternoon. A few days later, Dante Barreo and I went to S-City. I want to make good memories for both of us before I break up. What was supposed to be a little sad trip changed completely after sending a message to his best friend Joy Peg that he was going out with Dante Barreo. Changed a color. I'm curious about where my girlfriend of 18 years got this knowledge. If I want to use this energy in my studies, I should give her the first position in my grade. It's hot. Dante Barreo looked at me and pulled the fan out of his bag. I took it, and he looked thoughtfully at my phone. I immediately turned off the screen of my phone and put it in my pocket. He hooked his lips and reached out to rub my hair. Don't always play with that Joy Peg. She's spoiled you. As soon as he finished speaking, the phone vibrated again. I only glanced at it and quickly closed it again. Dante Borreo lazily asked. What did she say? I paused, a little embarrassed. Before I said, she asked me, how many rooms are you going to open tonight? Under the sun, the green scenery outside the train is dazzling. Many years later, I remember this scene. The young man's beautiful eyes were slightly raised, with an indescribable wanton ruffianism. He said, if you reply to her 4 words, you will say what I said, about you, about you, about the matter. I have to say, Dante Borreo and I are quite like a couple, even the swearing when we are upset. When I arrived at the hotel in the evening, I learned that Dante Borreo had already booked 2 rooms. I'm a little at ease, and I'm a little regretful. Don't get me wrong, I'm just sorry about the research on charging experiments. Holding hands, hugging, kissing have all tried that. It should be charged more and faster. For 3 days, Dante Borreo and I played in the water at the beach, climbed mountains to watch the sunrise, went to church to pray, and were slaughtered at a seafood stand. Seeing that I should have made it clear to him that I would be home the next morning, I couldn't open my mouth. In the TV series, it is said, wine is strong and intimidating. I went downstairs and bought a bottle of Red Star Ergo 2, pinching my nose and pouring it down. I staggered to Dante Borreo's door. Dante Borreo. As soon as the door opened, the young man's short hair was still dripping with water, and his eyes were large areas of smooth-textured abdominal muscles, which made people's blood gush. But I'm just a drunkard. I don't know how to appreciate. What's wrong? Dante Borreo asked. My head was dizzy, but I still remembered my mission. I'm going to break up. After a moment of silence, I was dragged into the room by him, pressed against the door, unable to move. He leaned over and bowed my jaw, and he pinched my jaw. His fingertips rubbed against my lips, and he was so close that the hormones in his body were overwhelming, enveloping me. Teenagers have become more dangerous than ever. Say, boy, I felt a little hot, but I couldn't break free. You let go of me. I'm going to break up. Before I could finish the last word, my lips were covered with warmth. I was breathing slightly. Say it again. Division. I reacted sluggishly to him as if he was going to kiss me again, and quickly covered his mouth. Why? Have you not had fun these 3 days? Or is it something else? Corazana Serna. Do you remember what you said when you confessed to me? He said a lot of things, and I couldn't react at all, so I subconsciously shook my head. Dante Borreo chuckled, his eyes cold and fierce. I felt as if I had to say something, and change the mood. I vaguely felt that according to my previous script, I should be lying in bed and sleeping now. You have a problem. We are not suitable. You are good and bad. You don't let me recharge. Dante Borreo didn't know what I was talking about. He noticed the smell of alcohol on me. His eyebrows frowned slightly, and he was a little irritated. Corazana Serna, how much did you drink this time? I gestured to a vial. Dante Borreo breathed a sigh of relief, knowing that there was no need to argue with a drunk, and carried me back to my room. Then I saw the empty bottle of the Red Star 2 potheads. He cursed under his breath. Then he resigned himself to his fate, and began to cover me with a quilt. I tugged at the corner of his coat, and kicked the quilt away in an instant. Break up, I said firmly. Reason, you're going to go abroad. I'm not going. You've got fiancé. I didn't. You're not in good health. At last I was not refuted, and I thought I had found a reason to convince him, and exclaimed. Joy Peg said, you must be physically fit to open 2 rooms. She said that men, who are not physically good can't have it. So, break up. Dante Borreo's eyes darkened slightly, hiding the tide under his eyes. The tip of his tongue pushed against his cheeks, and his Adam's apple rolled. I dreamed of a fire, a heat wave, and I was burned to the point of confusion. Early in the morning, I sat up in a daze. One night, my battery seemed to be fully charged. Previously it was orange warning electricity, green safety electricity. Now it's a red cylinder with a drawn on it. Red is always scary. I looked at the red marks on Dante Borreo's back and immediately tiptoed to run. On the train, memories of last night came back to me intermittently, and I was so ashamed that my toes scratched the ground. I can't wait to carry the train directly. It's complete. The experimental report on scientific charging can be closed. I won't think about it anymore. and Dante Borreo will probably forget about me soon. The train is to Shenzhen, and my mother is already waiting for me, and from here you can go directly to Gangcheng. Before getting out of the car, I messaged Dante Borreo. Dante Borreo, we are not suitable. I wish you a bright future. Goodbye. No, it should be, never again. Dante Borreo, I don't know if it's because the feng shui of the port city is good, and the power indicator that has plagued me for 5 months has mysteriously disappeared. Maybe it's cough. Credit to Dante Borreo that night, but no matter what, there is no way to verify. 5 years later, I was working as a finance intern at a startup company in Central. My mother helped in the sugar water shop, and she was able to save a small 20,000 Hong Kong dollars every month in addition to the rent, and her life was dull and happy. I didn't expect to see Dante Borreo again. It was in the company. This is Dante Borreo from CG Technology, and our company is responsible for the pre-IPO due diligence work. Thank you Dante Borreo for your trust. The man is dressed in a suit and leather shoes, with a noble temperament, steady and sharp. Your company has a good reputation. I wish us a happy cooperation in advance. Colleagues applauded, and the leader asked 2 other colleagues to be in charge of the project matchmaking. But Dante Borreo said, I am a high school classmate with Miss Corazana Serna of your company. Can you arrange for her to be with you? The leader hurriedly responded, my hanging heart is completely dead. The leader sensed that there was something not quite right between me and Dante Borreo, waved his hand, and directly arranged for me to take Dante Borreo on a tour of the company first. He also said that if necessary, let me accompany him to play with him in Hong Kong City for 2 days. Dante Borreo nodded. This hateful leader who sells his subordinates for glory. If it weren't for the internship salary of 30,000 yuan, I would have stopped serving a long time ago. I patiently introduced for an hour. Dante Borreo listened nonchalantly, and finally his gaze lingered on me for a moment. Corazana Serna, shouldn't you be happy when you meet again after a long absence? Even if it's just an old classmate, I chuckled, but it's probably worse than crying. Forget it, you don't want to see my ex-boyfriend at all, and I'm not too strong. The corners of his mouth curled, and his tone was loose and sarcastic. Straight out of the company, a beautiful woman in a red dress stepped down from the black Rolls-Royce Phantom to open the door for Dante Borreo. With a familiar movement, my heart was sour. I haven't been in a relationship in the 3 years I've been in college, and I'll admit I can't forget Dante Borreo. The initial contact may have been just because of the recharge, but then it was really like him. It's not like I didn't want to meet him again. I thought that if he had a girlfriend, I would bless him. If he doesn't have a girlfriend, I'll try to see if I can continue my relationship, but I never expected it. The charge above my head came back. This time I was sure that the problem was definitely with Dante Borreo. Does this guy have some magic weapon on his body, specializing in sucking other people's electricity, and only by touching it can he get the power back? After being introduced, I found a hidden goddess living in a residential building. The walls of the house are covered with strange charms and images. The table is filled with various divination tools, such as crystal balls, trick cards, and ancient turtle shells. The woman in the main seat closed her eyes, muttered a word, and made mysterious gestures with her hands in the air. I was a little scared, but in order to crack it, I waited for the last person to leave, and immediately sat down. I was about to introduce my situation, but she looked at me as if I was stunned. Let's go. Go away. Don't come here. She immediately panicked and called her assistant to drive me away. As I got up the stairs, I wondered if she would stop me and say that I was a ghost, and then take the opportunity to ask for a price. But it wasn't until I went downstairs that I found that the door was completely closed. I felt strange, but I wasn't afraid, because it must be Dante Borreo who has the problem. Obviously he didn't show up for 3 years, and I didn't have anything. I kicked the stones on the road irritably, and finally took a 4-day leave with the leader on the grounds that I would go back to the mainland to visit my father's grave. Of course, my rich dad didn't die, but that's all he could do. I bought a ticket to City H. By the afternoon of the next day, I had arrived at Mo, the northernmost part of China. This distance should be enough, but 4 days later, the battery went from 10% to 5%, and there was no sign of going away. Using the control variable method, the only difference between this time and the last time is that there is no effort. Dante Borreo. I rubbed my face and flew back to Port City in a state of despair. I was hesitating whether or not to do anything to Dante Borreo, or how to do it, when I turned to a work email from Dante Borreo 2 days ago. If it's to hide from me, you don't have to. This time I chose your company to cooperate with just by chance, and I already have a girlfriend. You don't have to worry about me chasing you. I'm certainly not so self-conscious. It's a dead deal. Fortunately, I have saved a lot of money in the past 3 years, and the owner of the sugar water shop is interesting to my mother, and my mother is not rejected, and I think I should be able to take care of her when the time comes. I went to CG to do my due diligence, and I met the girlfriend Dante Borreo said in the email. It was the beauty in the red dress that day, probably the identity of the secretary. They were having breakfast in the dining room, and when I looked over, Dante Borreo was reaching out to gently pin the woman's broken hair behind her ear. He'd done it to me countless times before. It turns out that he is so delicate to every girlfriend. I thought so. And he suddenly looked over. His eyes were as cold as if he were looking at a stranger, and my heart was stabbed. Looking at each other, I hurriedly avoided my gaze and ran away. I didn't see that after I left. The line of sight became dark and deep. By the time the work is done, and the CG has turned into a sea of red bouquets, I heard that today is Mia's birthday, and Dante Borreo ordered 9,999 roses. It's so romantic. Dante Borreo shouldn't take the opportunity to propose. Quite possibly. I've heard that Mia has been with Dante Borreo since the company's inception. I didn't think I would have any mood swings, but when I heard the word proposal, my heart jumped. Dante Borreo, whom I pushed away, really belongs to someone else now. I celebrated my birthday with friends in Lan Quifong at night, and I had a few more drinks. In the past 5 years, my alcohol consumption has improved many times compared to before. I probably know that there is no one next to me who can make me feel at ease and go crazy. There were a lot of people in there, and the air was stuffy, so it didn't take long for me to talk to my friends about going out and getting some air. When I got out of the bar door and was blown by the cold wind, I was much more sober. On the opposite side of the road, a beautiful woman in a red dress pressed a man into the car and kissed him. In an instant, my blood was clotted. They were so close that they couldn't be separated, as if there was no one else in the world. I'm starting to realize that while I've always accepted that Dante Borreo is with someone else, I've never dared to imagine the details of their time together. Soon, the woman in the red dress got up and stroked her hair sexily. I stiffened and hesitated to turn away, watching as the man stood up and followed the woman in the red dress. Wait, that man doesn't seem to be Dante Borreo. Oh, no. That's like, how does it look like? Not a man, either. The next day, I finished my work report with panda eyes, and looked at Dante Borreo in confusion. The man looked at the document and didn't look up. His voice was cold. Corazana Serena's nightlife is quite rich. But don't forget that you have been drinking badly, and you have made a mistake when you drink. It's so much better now. By the way, Dante Borreo, you were in Lan Quifong last night. I looked at Dante Borreo in horror. This Mia lady was too bold. Dante Borreo was inexplicably irritable. I thought it was a good opportunity to poke the tire, so I quickly walked over and leaned over to his ear. Dante Borreo, your girlfriend cheated on you. Who are you with? Didn't I make it clear? I'm talking about Mia. She lied to you. She actually likes women. I looked at him sincerely. Divide it, Dante Borreo. If you divide it, I will be able to do it to you. There is a countdown to death in the head, and the gods can't stand it. He deserves to be light, and his expression is light. I'm dying next to him. Dante Borreo, aren't you talking about breaking up? She lied to you, and that's a matter of principle. Hearing this, Dante Borreo looked at me suddenly. What about you? The man's eyes suddenly turned cold, making me subconsciously take a step back. What? Dante Borreo stood up. You said that you reported to the University of Qing, and then turned around and came to the University of Hong Kong, and I waited alone in the reporting office from dawn until dark, and I didn't even see your shadow. Do you remember when you confessed that you liked me? Do you remember the countless times you said you liked me when you coquettishly hugged me? You've also said twice that you've said that you'd die without me. So let me not leave you. I'm staying. But what about you? I don't know what I've done wrong. I can make you delete all your contact information and leave without mercy. And even tell the head teacher not to tell me where you went. Corazana Serna. Are you afraid that I will pester you? Do you think I have to be you? I'm sorry. I'm not that cheap. I'll ask you one last question. You said you liked me at the beginning. Did you lie to me, too? I apologized a lot that day, but Dante Borreo ignored me after listening to the answers. I quit my job and went home, bought accident insurance on the way, and sent a message to my mom. By the early hours of tomorrow morning, the battery is expected to drop to 0%. I sat in front of my computer with a blanket in my arms, and thought back to my short life. Was it a mistake for me to leave without permission? No one would believe in this kind of thing. The growth of a single-parent family made me have no long-term expectations for the relationship between men and women, and I didn't want Dante Borreo to stay for me. It's almost a dead end. Probably the only thing I complain about is this inexplicable illness. When you love, it's help, and if you don't love, it's a shackle, which is really harmful. I wanted to write something for Dante Borreo, but I felt like I was going to die, and it was a sin to bother someone. I watched the white of the fish's belly light up in the sky, and finally closed my eyes. I don't know if I'm dead. My soul is back to the morning 5 years ago, when the charge appeared above my head. This time, I became an invisible bystander, and the power charm did not appear. I watched me go to school as usual, put on my school uniform, pack my school bag, eat breakfast cooked by my mother, say goodbye to my mother, and walk on the road to think about today's study arrangements. Walking underneath, I floated in mid-air, feeling weird. More than 10 meters away, there was a careless ruffian teenager. It was the young Dante Borreo. He followed not far away, and when he saw me turn around, he quickly ducked to the side. The tips of his ears reddened. Tut, this guy won't have a crush on me for a long time. There was something beautiful in my heart, and I controlled my soul, and flew to Dante Borreo's side, but suddenly saw his pupils shrink suddenly, and he rushed forward like flying. It turned out that there was a car accident ahead. I quickly followed. When I saw the face of the deceased, my head buzzed, and my thoughts were completely frozen at this moment. He's dead. The boy hugged my body in a panic, tears falling down his face. People around called the police and called an ambulance. By the time the doctors didn't help, I was afraid to see my mother and Dante Borreo. I was confused and didn't know what was true and what was false. My mom cried until she fainted a few times, and Dante Borreo felt like she had been drained of her soul. A week later, at the funeral, I met with my grief-stricken teachers and classmates. Dante Borreo did not appear. I want to go home with my mother, but the body is in the morning hall, and I can't leave it. The night was getting darker, and even though I was a soul, and though it was my corpse inside, I still felt weird, so I kept testing the farthest distance I could stay. Suddenly, there was a bang outside the church, and it seemed that someone had sneaked in over the wall. I didn't expect there to be thieves in the morning hall. Unexpectedly, this thief turned out to be Dante Borreo. He sneaked in, with a shovel in his hand, and went straight to my coffin, pried it open, picked up my body and ran. Being messed with by him like this, my sad emotions were gone, and I hurriedly followed. No, buddy, we're just a lover, not a pervert. Okay, to put down the corpse we're holding. Tomorrow my mom sees the coffin empty, and she can't go crazy. I talked to him, but he couldn't hear me. The first year, my body was hidden by him in his secret base. In the third year, I watched him start his own company, and from time to time I went to see my mother, helped her change her leisurely job, and accompanied her to check her health. In the fifth year, his company went public, and the whole emperor knew that this rising star of the Borreo family was decisive in the business world. But he usually fasted and recited Buddha. In the seventh year, Dante Borreo was deceived by a feng shui master in Hong Kong City into 3 small targets. The old man went abroad with money. The matter was exposed. The company's stock price fell sharply. His father told him not to do these anymore. He turned a deaf ear. I followed him and thought about it. I've long said he's a liar. You still have to believe him. People can't be resurrected after death. You've read so many scriptures in vain. Dante Borreo, you're really a pig's brain. He stopped. I almost thought he heard what I said. It wasn't until I followed his gaze, and saw the 4 words, Master of the Hidden World, hanging on the windows of the residential building. In the 8th year, I heard the priest ask Dante Borreo, are you really going to give her half of your life? I pray for you, Dante Borreo said. If it succeeds, she won't know, and you won't remember? Okay, I tried to stop them, but I couldn't. Spacetime comes to a standstill here. I had a splitting headache and my heart was numb. I can't figure it out. I don't think a young crush can sustain a person to do so much. I don't think it's worth it, but I think of a book that Dante Borreo has been keeping on hand for the past 8 years. There is a sentence on the cover of the book. Because it is willingly indulged, even if it dies, it does not need to be saved. When I woke up from my rental house in Port City, I felt like a world away. I see. I need to recharge my batteries with Dante Borreo, because my life is due to him. I sat there for a long time, and I couldn't get out of it. There was a banging on the door, and I mechanically went to open it, but he was hugged by someone, who came. In my ears was the man's roar, I quit my job. I won't answer the phone. Corazana Serna, where do you want to run this time? How long do you want me to look for you? It's me who is cheap. It's me who pesters you. It's me who can't do it. I'm just angry with you leaving. Angry at you for lying to me, and saying you like me. Corazana Serna, I admit that I like you. Just say it. Why are you willing to continue to lie to me? The man holding me was haggard and humble. I pushed him away, and looked him in the eye. Don't lie. I've always liked you. But what's the matter with your girlfriend? Dante Borreo spoke. Of course it's to anger you. As soon as I come you will go back to the mainland. I thought you were avoiding me, afraid that you would run away. I nodded, put my arms around him, and whispered, I used to have low self-esteem. I didn't have confidence in relationships. I didn't think you would like me all the time. I was wrong. I admit that I was a coward. Now that I don't get entangled, I'll be brave, because even my life is given by you, my love. Dante Borreo's hugs tightened. I heard him say, obediently, you just need to be willing to take 1 step, and the remaining 99 steps, I will walk towards you. Extra. Dante Borreo had autism as a child, and after his biological mother died, his father brought his stepmother to the door. Others looked at his grandeur in the future, and thought that he had been holding the princess script since he was a child, but in fact, he was holding Cinderella's. He didn't react to the outside world, and those people bullied him wantonly, and didn't give him food. When his father returned, he put him in clean clothes, and made him eat until he vomited. It was at that time that little Corazana Serna appeared. She is not a delicate princess. She is a brave knight. She wore clothes sewn from rags, but she was bright and tough. Plus 1%. She said her mother was so stupid that she had to love the father who didn't recognize her, and she didn't want to leave being a nanny here without a name or a point. She certainly won't be like that in the future. She asked him if he didn't like her, why he didn't talk to her. He looked at her and didn't say a word. He actually liked her, like a lark, but he didn't know what to say. He hadn't spoken in a long time since his mother died. He was afraid that she would leave. So he grabbed her arm. Little Corazana Serna saw the red marks on his body, and felt a sense of justice. Since then, she would beat his babysitter with a slingshot, spit in his stepmother's teacup, and teach him how to please his father without talking. He would secretly practice speaking every night, hoping to tell her the next day, Corazana Serna. But she never showed up again. Later, he recovered from his illness. He remembered what she said about not being bullied. He remembered her sense of justice, and fights became commonplace, and every once in a while, he would be transferred to another school. He searched the list of students, for the name that he had thought about tens of thousands of times, and finally, he found her. It's a pity that she became a good student, and notoriety. He could only follow her far behind her in the early morning, as he laboriously recited the 2 words engraved in his heart every night as he had been a child, Corazana Serna. The end.